Good evening. I'm Peggy Scott Laborde, and welcome to Grape Performances. Tonight, our stars are Jay Batt, former New Orleans City Councilman and franchisee retail developer, and his brother Bryan Batt, actor on Broadway, in movies and television, and Hazelnut Store co-owner. Thanks to Sandra and Russ Herman, who are sponsoring our Grape Performances series. To get the full Zoom feed, be sure to pin the Grape Performances box from your gallery window. Here's how to do that. Find the square with the feed labeled Grape Performances. Move your mouse over that square. 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner will appear. Click on those dots and click Pin Video, and you should have our program full screen. Also, please be sure to mute yourselves if you don't mind, and that'll help us with feedback. Good evening, Jay and Bryan. How are you?
Hey, Miss Peggy. How are you doing?
Hey, Peggy. How are you?
Good to see you. You're in the Cornman studio. I am nearby in another studio, and it's great to see you. You know, we have so much to talk about because you all are very versatile indeed. But first of all, let's talk about growing up in New Orleans and Lake Vista. So tell us about those early days, and of course your grandparents and so much more. So was it Lake Vista mostly?
You take it, Bryan. You take it.
Well, yes, we grew up on Rail Street, then moved when we were in high school to Pratt Drive because of Pontchartrain Beach, because of our family's business. Our father wanted to be close to
Proximity, yeah.
To the beach. But we went to school uptown, and it was a trek. And it was quite interesting.
Isidore Newman.
I loved growing up, though, on the lakefront. I look back, and it was just such an easy way. I mean,
it was like Mayberry.
It was, and all those great lanes and promenades to play in, and the pine cone forest. You'd leave the doors were open. You know, your bikes we'd just get on our bikes and go. It was very freeing. It was fun though. You know, when friends would come out to visit, I think they thought they needed a visa to get out there.
Back then, it was considered quite a distance to trek out to the beach.
Right.
Sometimes we would offer them. We'd go to the beach or Pontchartrain Beach if they would sleep over.
Yeah, you know, that was Jay. That was one of my one of my things that was my litmus test to see who my real friends were.
And you came up empty.
Exactly. Well,
No.
I'm unlikable.
Well,
We joke a lot, Peggy.
Oh, that's all right. And that is what this evening's about, talking and remembering. This is sort of like a This Is Your Life thingy, because we've got some, thanks to you all, we have some great photos. And we're going to show some photos of little Bryan and Jay. Now, what is the age difference here?
We're about 2.5 years apart.
And it's 2.5 years now, too.
Yes.
It still is. It's amazing. So precious. And I'm assuming, Jay, you're the older brother here, just to make sure. Okay.
Correct.
Great. But your parents, I think, loved, look at these photos. The cuteness quotient is very high.
I think that was Tippery Studios. Remember? Always dressed up and going down to Tippery. On Carondelet.
Yes, Paul Palermo later, because he did our Cabrini High photos. I remember him well. But Tippery always did such great work. But we have to talk about, of course, your paternal grandfather. And wait, first of all, your family. Okay, so that
I love that picture.
That is, of course, John, your dad, and your mom, Gail. And we're going to talk a whole lot about Gail because she has so much wonderful story. But there you all are, dressed to the nines.
Isn't that just the quintessential, like, mid-century modern picture? Like,
it kind of is.
It looks like the Petries had an extra child, you know?
That's right, Rob and Laura. Exactly. But let's talk about Harry Batt Sr. And of course, we're talking about, and his father had been involved, but the early days of Pontchartrain Beach. Now, let's set up this photo, Jay.
That's a birthday party for me. Bryan, I don't think was born quite yet.
Okay.
And it's my grandfather, Harry Batt Sr., my grandmother on the left, Marguerite, and my maternal grandmother, Hazel, which Bryan has a store called Hazelnut, named after.
I love that. That is a great photo. And we should talk about, like, Hazel Nuss, okay, because that was her name, her maiden name, had a dancing school, didn't she?
Yes. At one point, I think she had over 500 students. She was an amazing woman. She started teaching with her sister, if I know the history correctly, like, I think when she was 13 or 14 or something like that. And
their parents were sick, and they needed to help make money for the family back in the day.
And I think one of their first recitals was I don't know if it was at the French Opera House. I can't remember all of it, but I look back at some of these old programs, and even today, some old elderly ladies will come up to me and say, "Your grandmother taught me dancing
Oh, I love
and how to
that.
be a lady." That was my favorite. And how to be a lady.
And strong, independent women run strong in our family.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Quite.
And Bryan, I guess, obviously between your grandfather and your mom, showmanship was in your blood.
I think it's in my brothers too. I
Yeah,
really
well,
don't.
that's true.
You were backstage
But you were
with
putting on
them. Come on.
parades. You all were putting on parades, and we have images, thanks to you all, from the July 4th parade on Rail Street.
Yes,
Now,
and that's the late great
Jimmy Fitzmaurice,
Fitzmaurice,
our lieutenant
handing me a little proclamation there.
Isn't that
And
great?
that's Ellen Romig in the center. And that's my brother and myself decorating the floats. I just wanted. I loved Mardi Gras and theater.
And you loved America.
And I love I still do love America. But it was one of these things I wanted to do. And I remember asking for Christmas if I could have a 4th of July parade. And my parents said yes.
But who asked for that?
I know.
Who asked?
Well,
Can I have a
asked for
parade,
that?
please?
they should have known a long time ago.
Yes, well, my understanding from your Pontchartrain Beach book, which we'll be, of course, referring to and talking about, is that so for Christmas, the scenic shop at Pontchartrain Beach, the staff there would work on these mini floats.
Well, they made every year for the parade, I would get a couple more. That was, and they were low to the ground and they were pulled by Boy Scouts or whoever Cub Scouts, whoever get to pull them. And it was just a ragtag kind of thing. But I look back at the pictures and I just recently, before this, found some footage. Jay and Andre were moving. And there was all these things from our mom's house up in the attic that we never opened. These tubs of, and there were.
Mom had a lot of stuff. And Peggy, we just didn't open up the last 15 boxes because we were worn out.
Oh, it was crazy. We just threw them up in your attic. I mean, when my mom passed, I thought we were going to find the Lindbergh baby in her garage. I'm not kidding. But we found this, and in the box were all these slides and some reels. And I said, Jay, we don't need any more pictures. He goes, just go through them.
And you were kind enough to do so.
And I took a look at I've not seen this picture. So there's a wonderful place in across the river called Memory Lane. And I brought it to them, and they can take anything and put it on digitally. I have a little thing, and they're all these pictures, and the color on the Kodachrome and the Ektachrome slides still were so vibrant. You'll see some. I think some of my I found, and I couldn't help but put them.
Those are great. And we are going to show a photo though of your current immediate family. Okay, this might even be a selfie.
It was a selfie.
That's Kelly in the front taking the selfie.
Oh, so it's Kelly. Okay, so explain who's in the photo, Bryan. Okay.
Jay,
all right, that's Kelly on the front next to Bryan. That's my daughter Bailey in the middle. She's my eldest. Me, of course, my beautiful wife, Andre, and there's my brother-in-law, Tom, on the left.
All right. No, I love that. It's a wonderful photo. Well, but we're about to go to James Moises, but just as and of course, we're going to be talking about Pontchartrain Beach in great detail, but as a tease, quickly, what was your favorite ride at Pontchartrain Beach?
Zephyr.
Wild Mouse.
Okay, more about all of that in just a bit. Thank you. And now, though, time to hear from James Moises. James is the owner of Bisou Wines, which imports over 1,000 wines. James has chosen the wines for all of our grape performances and Season of Good Taste events. And it was really his idea to put together great performances. Thank you, James. And what are we beginning with tonight?
Thank you, Peggy. It's great to be back for another toast to a great legacy in New Orleans. Pontchartrain Beach, boy, what great fond memories. Not only the fun and the rides, but it was one of my first jobs when I was a kid. So great legacy having Pontchartrain Beach and the Batt brothers. Our first wine today is from South America, from Chile. This is Los Morros, which means the hills. Because this particular vineyard has beautiful rolling hills in the Central Valley of Chile. This is a Sauvignon Blanc that I chose, which is just such a delightful summer wine. It's very light and crisp and good acidity. On the nose and on the palate, you can pick up some grapefruit and some banana and some pineapple. What's beautiful about Sauvignon Blanc is you can just chill it all the way down. Stick it in the freezer, get it cold, and then it's just so refreshing and it quenches your thirst. So. Our first wine is white wine Sauvignon Blanc from Chile in Los Morros.
And James, white wine. We talk about white wine with seafood. So in this seafood town, that's perfect, isn't it?
Absolutely. For pretty much any seafood dish you're going to have this summer, the shrimp and the fish and the tuna, this clearly pairs well with any of those.
Okay.
Or just a drink. on the porch.
And I'm assuming at all fine wine stores and maybe through Bizou Wines. How can we best access this?
Absolutely. This particular wine's at a few select different retail stores around town.
Okay.
And just Bizou Wines as well can point you in the right direction.
All right. Thank you, James. And we have plenty to discuss concerning Jay and Bryan's connections to Pontchartrain Beach. But now let's take a moment to reminisce with a nostalgic visit to the amusement park.
Just kind of say
At the beach, at Pontchartrain Beach, you'll have fun every day of the week. You'll love the thrilling rides, laugh till you split your sides at Pontchartrain Beach.
With sights and sounds converging in so many different ways, maybe it's best to start at the beginning. The sign that said you were indeed at the beach. It opened in 1939 as an outgrowth of a smaller amusement park with the same name that was nearby. What New Orleanians came to know as Pontchartrain Beach was at the end of Elysian Fields Avenue. The beach was located where the avenue and Lake Pontchartrain meet.
It was such a landmark. It was at that circle at the end of Elysian Fields. Circling that circle was when we were learning to drive, was a big deal to go in a circle like that. It was the end of the road. It had so much significance and history in New Orleans.
And making that history was the Batt family, headed by Harry Batt Sr., who worked closely with his two sons, Harry Jr. and John.
My dad was a great one believing in promotions. He used to have tie-ups with radio stations and television stations. He was a real promoter. He liked show business. He liked it very much.
His father's flair for the theatrical was very much reflected in Pontchartrain Beach, or the beach as it was more familiarly known. It was laid out in a linear fashion along the shore of Lake Pontchartrain, with the water's edge on one side and the rides paralleling the shore. A day or evening spent there provided opportunities for swimming, for adventures on the rides, snacking along the midway, or just people watching. The beach season stretched from late spring to Labor Day. Harry Batt Sr.'s love of travel took him around the world in search of bigger and better amusement rides. From Germany came the Wild Mouse.
That was the name that was used in Europe, in Germany, and we first saw that ride at the Oktoberfest in Munich. It was a type of roller coaster. It got its name from, if you could imagine, a mouse feeding in and out. And the car, actually, when you looked over, there was nothing on either side of you, which gave you an eerie feeling. And of course, it was a very, very popular ride.
From Italy came the bumper cars. But very American was the Zephyr.
Dad had a contest held with the local people here. Someone had taken it off the name of the Burlington Zephyr, which was a crack train which ran between Chicago and Denver. And for many years, the loading station resembled the pulling member of the Burlington Zephyr.
And that was an excerpt from our documentary, New Orleans, That Was. Some folks are asking us about the pinning aspect of what we're doing tonight. So just a reminder to pin the Grape Performances box from your gallery window. And you find the square that's labeled, the feed labeled Grape Performances. Move your mouse over to that square. 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner will appear. You click on those dots, and then you click Pin Video, and then that means you should have our program full screen. So now, though, we want to visit with you all, those who are kind enough to be zooming in tonight, and let's say hello. And I see Dominic Massa. Hello, Dominic. Hi. And I see Nell Nolan in front of the castle. Hey, Nell. It's great to see you. Hey, Nell. Yeah, Nell was so kind to be with us, and she did such a great job a few months back on our Grape Performances. Welcome, welcome tonight. And who else do we have out there? Hey, how y'all doing? Good to see you again. Hello. Thanks for being with us. We've been so excited about this one. Hello. Hey, Peter, how you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for being with us, Peter. That's great to see him. Hi. How you doing? Hey. we have a nice crowd for tonight, too. This is great, and I know they have a lot of memories. Hi, from Vino Wine and Spirits. Hello, hello. Good to see you. Yes, indeed. Thank you for all your help, too. Very good. Hey, Bill Hughes. I just ran into you at the store the other day. How you doing? Thanks for being with us tonight. Hey, how you doing, Miss Carrie? Hi. I love that little corner of the world. Yay, absolutely. Very good. And there's Susie Villery. Hello, Susie, with her beautiful wine in the background, too. That's quite the bar. Thank you. Hey, how are you? Look at the Always for Pleasure poster behind him. Woohoo! That is a wonderful backdrop. Thank you for being with us. Hey, how are you? Look at the art behind you, too, here. Thank you. Hey, Lori, thanks for being here. And look at Dorothy Klein and Dana Hansel. Look with the Pontchartrain Beach poster. Hello. Having a very, very good time. That's right. Very good. Hi. Hey, how are you? Good to see you. That's great. Yes, of course, that's Andre. Hey, Andre. And there's Errol Laborde. Hi. Hey, Big E. Good to see you, too. And Jim Tapley. All right. Good to see you all out there. Yes, yes. Okay. And Alan, our very own stepping out, Alan Mason. Hello, Alan, with a wonderful tie on. Look at that. Looking good behind you. All right. Wait a minute. What happened there? Hey, how are y'all? Hal and Katie Crosby. Hey, and their pals. Hello. How are y'all doing? Hey, thanks for tuning in tonight, too. It means a lot. Well, thank you all. It's good to see you, and we'll be coming back to you a little bit later. And now, though, let's go back, of course, and talk to Bryan and Jay about Pontchartrain Beach. And Bryan, we of course would be remiss if we didn't say this wonderful scrapbook of memories. And with Katie Danoff, I know she worked very hard in it too. Look at this. I've been doing my homework, darling. But anyway, what a wonderful book. That had to be quite a challenge to put together because there's so much good stuff. Huh?
Well, it was, and initially I thought it was going to be really easy. And be careful what you wish for, because
yes.
It wasn't. But people wrote in such great stories, and our family had some wonderful stories and memorabilia. The whole thing came about because in my mom's garage, I found a box that had all of the remnants of my father's office from Pontchartrain Beach, and I hadn't seen all these things in a long time, and the tricentennial was coming up, and the Endymion was doing the float.
The big float, the Pontchartrain Beach float.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
And it was just, I just thought, if we don't do this now, it's not going to get done.
Well, of course, we're going to show all these great photos that you include in the book, but this is little Bryan in the beach photo booth.
Yeah, I think I still wear that jumper.
That's right. And I kind of added this photo, which one of my favorite photos of all time, from the clown, the incredible clown. Talk about the use of the word iconic.
Oh.
And that is a photo by a dear friend of mine who was a longtime cameraman at Channel 6, Joe Buddy. Isn't that a great photo?
I wish I would have had that. That would have been great in the book. Don't you think
sorry.
that?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and of course, the Cockeyed Circus, Laugh in the Dark, and I know that was also the Haunted House later, too, wasn't
yes.
it?
And
Blaine Kern did and created the haunted house for Pontchartrain Beach.
Oh, I didn't realize
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
But I love that photo. And of course, entertainment was par excellence on the Midway, and your grandfather was very keen on having all of these wonderful entertainers, but you also had some special visitors, and we're going to show that photo too, and none other than Mr. Elvis Presley.
He was there twice.
Yes, my dad told me that they had, my mom and dad and my uncle and aunt had dinner with him in the Bally High, and people were watching and seeing him eat and all that. The minute they got up from dinner, people grabbed for the chicken bones, the utensils he touched, the napkins. I mean, oh my God.
Can you imagine?
And this is before this was in the late 50s, before he was as huge as he became. Yes.
In fact, he played the beach on the Hillbilly Hayride or whatever
Correct.
it was. And it was before Hound Dog came out, before his first big hit came out. And then he hit like crazy. And he came back the next year, or the next year with his girlfriend, who was actually from Ocean Springs, and played at the beach. And our grandfather was very fond of him. At that time, people were saying, "Oh, it's devil music," or remember he would shake his
Oh,
hips,
yeah, of
and they're
course.
like, "Oh." And my grandfather was quoted about saying, "No, he's a fine young man, just like what was his name? Topo Gigio and
On Ed Sullivan?
Ed Sullivan.
Ed
yeah.
Sullivan, yeah.
He,
on Ed
he was saying,
Ed Sullivan?
Ed Sullivan. He stood up for Elvis because he was getting a lot of flack.
But they had all kinds of entertainers out there, which was fun for me and Brian. I was talking to Mike Reed earlier this afternoon. He reminded us, so WDSU used to have a day at Pontchartrain Beach, and the entire cast of Bonanza came out, and I had pictures with Dan Blocker, Michael Landon, Lauren Green, musicians. We had Tony Orlando. His first live performance was at the beach.
Yes.
I brought him a few years back. I think it was called Family Graw out in Jefferson Parish. My kids had never heard of Tony Orlando, of course, so we were
How
dating
dare
ourselves.
they not know?
And he goes, "Call me Uncle Tony, girls." It's pretty entertaining.
I love that. Well, one of the highlights, and there's so many highlights, and we'll keep on talking, but we wanted to show you with the popularity of South Pacific, the book, and then the movie, the whole idea of Polynesian food and the Bali High.
And the tiki experience.
Tiki experience, which is, everything old is new again.
Yes.
But here's a menu, of course, that's included in your book. And the interior, which, by the way, was the second date of with myself and my husband now,
Wow.
Errol Laborde.
Okay.
Yes,
and I remember getting all dressed up to go to the Bali High, and it made such an impression, that we actually had our wedding reception
Look at that.
there.
Yes.
And for full disclosure, also, Mr. Batt and Errol's dad, Mr. Ellis Laborde, were friends, and it just was so much fun that we were able to have the reception there. But you see all the tiki materials.
Yes. I love that you have the Gatsby, like that era, the 70s, with those
With the
floppy
hat.
hats.
I still have the hat.
And then in the tiki room. I mean,
In the
it's kind of
tiki
like
room.
It was very
what?
authentic, though.
Oh,
I mean,
no, the tiki room
all
was
the
great.
stuff my grandfather and you couldn't get on Amazon and order things. They traveled the world to
Search.
get a lot of the
Oh,
things
yeah.
that they did to decorate.
They were incredible.
I think they wrote
people.
those trips off, though.
I hope so.
I
They
hope so.
traveled like crazy.
And may I just, plug for the book? There are a few recipes, a few cocktail
Yes,
recipes.
Jay provided those.
Thank you, Jay.
Yes. Years ago, we were having a party in New York for Leslie Castet and Brian
Wonderful
Berger when they were
actress.
getting married.
Oh.
And we had a tropical theme, and I called Jay and I said, "Do we have any recipes of those drinks?" And he said, I have.
What do you want? I
What
got
do you
them
want?
all.
And that's when the fax machine had kept on coming with a roll of it, right?
Right.
And across the fax machine, Jay sent these recipes, but it was in my father's hand.
Handwriting. I still
His
have it.
handwriting. And I hadn't seen it since he passed away, and I immediately started to get choked up. But we went to go get the ingredients. Half of them you can't buy anymore because they're illegal. And we're mixing the drinks, and all of a sudden, I swear to you, in the punch bowl, it started to swirl on its own. And everyone had a great night. It was thank you, brother.
Oh, you bet. Listen, those drinks still work today, and you don't have to change them up at all.
But what we didn't know is that at the beach they served them. They filled the glass with crushed ice,
Right.
And then you pour the drink over it, and it waters down
A little
because
bit,
it is
yeah.
so potent. We didn't know that.
All right, I got to tell you all something real quick. Brian and I, our parents, were kind enough to allow us to have one party at Bali High every year, and we would have ramaki and fried shrimp and all kinds of wonderful
Everything,
egg
all the
roll,
great, yeah.
you name it, everything being passed. But this was a day when, before drinking and driving and all that was such a concern, and legitimately so.
Yes, of course.
But we would have a party, and classes from my class, from Newman, my friends, from Country Day, from Jesuit, from De La Salle, Sacred Heart, all that stuff. They'd come over, but you'd have volcanoes, and you'd put your glass under it to get a fall cutter. Or you'd go under a river and
And
you'd
we're
get a
underage.
Mai Tai.
Underage.
And my parents would have some of their friends, like the Brennans and Zetzmans, being chaperones. And if someone was a little bit overserved, which happened from time to time, they'd say, take care of him. No accidents ever occurred.
And Lois and Lynn's
the Smith Watkins, yeah.
They were
and we never had a problem, which was kind of nice and wonderful.
Oh.
Well, responsible drinking.
Absolutely. In that
Only
wide
kind of
shot
drink.
of you two,
Right.
of course, there's the lighthouse, which is still
Yes.
around. And we have to show you, of course, as we know, in 1983, Pontchartrain Beach very sadly closed, but it's now the UNO Technology Park. And a friend of mine today, Sharon Snowdy, dear friend, who was actually in the wedding photo, by the way. We also worked
great.
together. And she is watching the Zoom. Hello, Sharon. So she sends me this photo today. They passed by, and look at that. It's the UNO Technology Park now, but look at that. A sandbox
It's also the beach.
for
Yes,
indeed.
collaboration.
Yes.
The
I love it.
beach. The beach.
The beach.
So I just love that. And
Well, you know, it
so many
actually
good
wasn't a
memories.
beach. It was not a beach originally. It was, it was camps and everything many years ago.
They still have that off of Haynes Boulevard on the other
Further,
side.
yes.
by
A little
Secret
bit,
Brook.
little
But my
woods, little
grandfather,
woods, yeah.
when he pitched the idea of moving the amusement park from
Beauregard.
Spanish
from
Fort,
Spanish
yeah.
Fort, he pitched putting a beach in there and then having an iconic roller coaster and amusement park being built. The roller coaster was one of a kind. The Zephyr was by the Vertel Company, and it was unparalleled.
Top 10 in the world every year it was existed.
But anyway, he had all that sand brought in from Florida, and he created a beach. There was no beach there.
No, it's incredible. Yeah,
He
the
was
reclaimed
something. He was
land. and
an amazing man.
He took Peggy, my grandfather decided, we were the younger cousins. We have 3 cousins that are older than us, Barbara, Harry, and David. Wonderful. But he
were
wanted
the
to take a
second
trip
string.
with his 2 grandsons.
Yeah.
And he took us for a summer
Oh.
to every major theme park in the United States. And my grandfather, who is president of the International Association of Amusement Parks and
Many
Attractions,
years.
IAPA. Anyway, they'd roll out the red carpet, so we didn't have to wait in lines. We didn't have to do, I mean, it was
And
spectacular.
he was 70 what?
Like, who are these kids?
And he
could keep up?
Keep up. I couldn't keep up with him.
I know.
He was, but my favorite is he was an incredibly wonderfully awful driver. He was always speeding. And remember, we got on.
I was 14, I drove.
It was in Philadelphia or somewhere in Philadelphia, and he missed a stop and backed up on the highway. And then we got off at the stop, and it was really one of these neighborhoods. It was kind of like a bad episode of Beretta.
Yeah, for
and
those,
he got out.
Brian, fortunately, people who are watching and zooming might understand Beretta, that reference.
Yes,
but
okay.
most
But
people.
he got out of the car. We're like, Dee, what are you doing? And he goes, you have to be able to talk to anyone.
Yeah.
And that is a skill.
I remember that vividly.
Yeah. And Mom had it too. Mom could talk to anyone.
she did.
I also remember we were driving through Great Adventure Amusement Park.
Oh no.
And which also had an
geez.
adventure ride and a safari.
The
And he had me driving, and
God.
he saw a couple of rhinos copulating, and he was laughing so hard and pointed it out to my brother. He fell between the seat and
well, there went the matinee crowd.
I think you took a picture.
I did take a picture.
We're going to have to go to James in a minute, but just real quick, 2 things. Ken and Pandy Cobb. Ken was a long time now retired, but in advertising, and they were Zephyr fans. And
Oh,
at
wow.
the top of the Zephyr, Ken hands her a ring, as in her engagement ring. Okay, and so she puts it in her mouth so she wouldn't lose it and goes down. But that is how he proposed to her.
I
Thank
love
God she
that
didn't
We
swallow
have
it.
gotten we've gotten a request, and this has nothing to do with Pontchartrain Beach, I don't think. But anyway, I think that Jay, you need to tell us about a photo which we don't have because this has just come up with Hef and Brian and Jay. Are we talking about you, Hefner?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right. We got another story here. Okay.
First of all, my brother, of course, star of Mad Men. Hugh Hefner was enthralled. He came up during the time in the 60s and thought that show that was a period piece, a great series, and it was indeed. And Brian won 3 SAG Awards with it. But Brian was invited to the mansion for private party and what have you for the Halloween event. And Tom, his husband, not husband at the time, but they've been together 32 years.
30 years.
It really didn't do much for him. Brian, quite frankly, going to the, Hugh's place is not a big deal, but for a heterosexual man like myself, it is a big deal. It's a bucket list, box check off.
Yep.
And Brian said, "Do you mind if I ask my brother?" And thankfully, my wife, who is very, very understanding and loving,
And watching tonight. Okay.
exactly,
Yeah.
she said, if Brian's going to be your, bodyguard and be my handler that night, she would trust him that I wouldn't get in any trouble.
A short leash.
Yes, and we went and had the most spectacular time. Hugh threw a party, was unbelievable. They were pouring Johnny Walker Blue, which is
crazy.
$300 a bottle. I mean, the food was off the charts.
crazy. My favorite thing that happened, though, you have to dress up, right, to go to any of those parties.
Fred Flintstone, right here.
And I was a fashion don't. It was really ridiculous. Anyway, we're walking around, and my brother was so funny because you were like we went to the haunted house thing and everything.
He had imported rides. He had like a mini amusement park on his property.
And then, there were bunnies. We did a photo shoot with some of the bunnies, and I introduced Jay to some of the bunnies. And there were some celebrities there. I mean, like Julie Newmar was there.
Oh, my goodness.
Catwoman.
Oh, look at this.
Yeah, that's me that's a
Surprise.
furniture thing. Yeah. But then my favorite is one of these girls, a girl walked by and Jay said, "Wow, her outfit is so tight." And I said, "Jay, that's paint."
I know. And I was like, oh my God.
Well, what a great story.
But I got something out of it. Jay had tickets to the Obama's inauguration, so he gave me those. So Tom and I went to President Obama's first inauguration.
That's a good trade-off. I love that. Now, though, James, wine number 2, sir. We're waiting to hear from you.
All right, now we go to Spain, and the region is Cariñena, which is just outside of Barcelona. This is really an interesting wine. This rosé comes from the winery Bodega Care, although it's spelled Care, but it's Care. And all the wine labels, they make 11 wines, and they all have different faces that the winemaker uses to kind of in some way relate to the wines that they have. This rosé is really pretty special. This is 50% Tempranillo and 50% Cabernet Sauvignon, which you don't see a lot of rosés made with Cabernet Sauvignon. But they can pull it off because they do something really special and very difficult. They harvest at nighttime. So what makes rosé and white wines work really well is if you can harvest at nighttime, the heat from the sun doesn't oxidize it, so you're able to keep the freshness and the flavors. And this is a really, for people who drink a lot of rosé, you'll say, boy, this has got a lot of body and structure to it. It's because of the Cabernet and because of the big grapes, but you still get that freshness and that fun rosé flavor that you want to drink in the summertime. So Care from Spain.
James, what do you attribute the sort of increased popularity of rosé? Rosé is very hot, and I say that in quotation marks, isn't it?
Well, it took the U.S. quite a while to catch on. Rosé for the last 10 years has been picking up a lot of popularity. It's just a wonderful wine to drink. The way you make rosé is, for the most part, you use a red grape, but as soon as you pick it, you leave it on the skins only for about 8 hours, and then you press the juice off, and that's what gives it that lighter rosé color instead of fermenting it on the skins, which gives it the dark red color. So rosé is just easy to drink. In Louisiana, especially in New Orleans, it's an all year round wine. It's not just a summer wine. With seafood, again, this is a perfect pairing. So drink rosé all year.
James, I have a friend who's very much a Francophile, and he drinks his rosé with ice.
So you definitely want to drink rosé chilled. So if it's not chilled enough, you can put a cube of ice in it, but I prefer to just keep it chilled and drink it without watering it down.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. We'll be back to you soon. And now it's time to go back to the Batt brothers, but this time talk about Mardi Gras. And we have a wonderful photo of you all in one of those ladders, those very New Orleans-y ladders. That is at Lee Circle, because I see the bank, what used to be the National American Bank behind you.
Louis Roussel's bank.
Louis Roussel's bank. Yes, exactly. Look at this. Batman and Robin, ever so coordinated.
We were
there,
always
gentlemen.
Batman and Robin.
Really?
But this also was one of those pictures, Jay, that I found in the tub.
Okay.
And look at the color of it.
And
It's still great.
Dad looks fantastic.
Doesn't
there.
he?
Alpaca sweater.
I can't believe he has a beer. I've never remember him drinking beer. Heineken. But that's not a Heineken.
I know, no green bottle.
Yeah.
Well, of course, your grandfather was very much was a king, right? Twice, right? Hermes
1955
and the Louisiana and the Washington Ball. Huh?
Washington.
And we were the Pages.
Brian and I were Pages, and my cousin Barbara
was
Claiborne
queen.
was his queen. So the royalty was all the Batts, which was kind of fun.
Yes, it was all.
I love that. And we need to jump ahead a little bit here in the more recent past, because look at that. Oh my gosh. 2013, and of course the Endymion Parade, Ed Munez as captain, decided to honor Pontchartrain Beach with this amazing float. It would be too hard to show the float
I know,
side by side. Here's an
was so
illustration.
kind. Ed was so kind with that. He and Barry Kern called me up, and Brian and I got together and went over there and supplied some things to him. But we're very flattered that people still remember. And I believe, if I remember correctly, Ed told me he met his wife there, or that's where their first date was, or something.
First date.
But it just makes us feel good as a family that this park that my grandfather started meant so much to so many people and have so good memories.
You know, our cousin Kevin was watching Endymion the first night the parade. I was out of town when the float went by, and he goes, "Oh my God!" He sent me live video. I said, "He goes, I feel like Uncle Johnny's passing by in front of me." But he said the crowd was going crazy. They were going crazy, and that's why I wanted to write the book, because people still remember. And I think, you know,
Where did you meet your wife? They met him at Pontchartrain Beach. Our first date was there. You hear all
my
that kind of
first
stuff.
kiss was there, and it was also just there's nothing like it anymore. And you know, these wonderful memories, you have to preserve them and cherish them.
You know, backing up a little bit, we didn't have a chance to talk about the arcade and the fish for the little kids, the little wee ones, how you would go to this, I guess it was a sort of a side, it wouldn't be a ride, it was an attraction.
That would go by and you'd
have a fishing pole, and you would try to hook a fish and you get a prize.
Right.
And as a little kid, that was a huge deal. Do you remember that?
I remember
Absolutely.
that. I remember.
You could also win goldfish.
Yes.
And you'd come and walk around the whole day with a goldfish bowl, which was kind of foolish when you thought that it'd break on the midway.
But the arcade, there was that wonderful arcade, like games of chance and stuff.
Yes.
Now, Brian, though, I was reading something where you remembered where the prizes were stored.
Well, there was a whole back lot, you know, behind.
Correct. And we had some employees live back there too.
Yeah, but there were these storage houses, and I remember every time Newman had the bazaar or one of these things,
they would
donate all the stuffed animals or whatever. Same thing with the church bazaar and things like that.
Oh, that was so special. Now, didn't your grandparents at one point live at Pontchartrain Beach?
For many years.
In the penthouse in the Art Deco building, which was the administration building. They had a really swanky penthouse. They had parties there, cocktail parties, and
it was gorgeous. I look back and
it was spectacular when you look back.
I have some pictures. I have a pair of their lamps still, but you know, your taste in design always changes. And I remember going there thinking it was really cool, and then I thought, you know, what's deco? I like New Orleans style, and now I would kill.
Do you remember that coffee table, Brian, with the petrified wood?
Yeah. Oh, it was.
Oh my God!
But there was a spiral staircase going up. It was a white stucco deco with the deco blocks around, and the spiral staircase went up, but it was cypress and then held up with lucite. It was
very cool.
It was just. I know I'm not doing it justice, but I look back and it looked like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers could walk in at any time if
you're right.
If they were in an island.
And it had a hidden bar on the first floor where Dad's office was, and you just push the wood and it would open up, and it's mirrored and glass and everything.
And the
I wanted to tell you, Peggy, they had two very, very legendary politicians that worked as lifeguards out there, and he told me the story that my grandfather wanted to raise, and all the lifeguards wanted to raise. And my grandfather came down in the Silk Road and cinched it up and told him that, you know, he wanted an extra 15 cents an hour, and my grandfather was tough. Then he went back and organized, and then he got his 15 cents an hour. And that person was Frank Mignard, the late. And the other fellow that worked out there that I served with was Eddie Saper.
Eddie Saper was a lifeguard.
And those two, which was fun, that I had a chance to know them on their level, shared so many fun stories about my granddad that we would have never had, you know, come across. And it was a very special time. And being a Batt and a grandson of Harry, and son of Gail and John and Brian's brother, it's been a very blessed life I've had.
Yeah.
And by the way, husband and dad to Bailey, Kelly, and Andre.
Yes, and we're going to talk about them in just a second. But also, Kitty. Let me just back up on Pontchartrain Beach, because we can't get enough, clearly, right? But Kittyland, all right, the carousel, the little boats that ran around the circle.
Yes.
You know, some of us do recall that. Also, the Zephyr Jr., which was more my speed.
Wait, how about what was the Smoky Mary ride?
Oh,
it used to go up, remember? And they would take your picture at the top before you came down. I remember that.
That guys dressed in safari outfits. I never understood the relevance of that for that ride. But
then it became the safari.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful memories. Now, though, it's time to go back to James, because everybody's waiting for wine number 3. James.
Okay, our last wine is a red wine from France. This is another special wine. It's just a wonderful wine. So this is from the Languedoc area of France, which is the southwest part of France. and it's Elizabeth and Charles Jourdan. It's Chateau l'Argentière. It's a 100-year-old winery. These are vines that are 50 years old, and the grape is called Cinsault. Great big letters right in the middle of the label. Cinsault, a long time ago, was the most widely grown grape in France, and now they grow everything. But this is a really fantastic grape. It's a great summer grape. It's compared a lot of times to Pinot Noir, but for about half the price. This particular, there's Elizabeth and Francois, not Charles, I'm sorry, Charles is their son. Francois, they just do a wonderful job. This is an award-winning Cinsault year after year by all the big critics, and it's just a wonderful summer wine. Like I said, you can put a little chill on it. It's not a big red. It's a great summer wine for when it's too hot to drink anything bigger.
Oh, it's so wonderful. And, the whole, I guess myth about, red with meat and white with seafood, that ain't so, is it?
It really isn't. So in terms of reds with seafood, absolutely. Light reds with seafood really work. What you want is you don't want something that's got too many tannins or that's too big and chewy or oaky, because that'll cover up the taste of seafoods. Something light like this, for instance, or a Pinot Noir works really good with seafood or with very lean meat. And when you have fatty meats, that's where you want to stick with the Zinfandels and the Cabernet, absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much, James. We'll be back to you shortly. And back to Bryan and Jay. And now, though, it's time to talk about That's Entertainment. And Bryan, first of all, as we said, it's in both of y'all, it's in your genes. Tell us about the Nuss sisters and more about the dancing school.
Well, my grandmother, Hazel Nuss, for which we named this store Hazelnut, and her sister Norma.
Tell them which one's which in the picture.
Well, Hazel's on the left, Norma's on the right.
There you go.
And they were lovely and very talented, and at
strong women.
Strong women at an early age. They expressed interest for dance, and my great-grandmother put them to work, and they had their own dancing school by the time I think they were 15. And when my grandmother had like 500 students at one point, and during the Depression, actually was the sole provider. And when in a time when women didn't, quote unquote, ladies didn't really work,
right.
And I thought it was fascinating. She was a very strong, very loving woman.
Bryan, that not only that, and one of the things that I want to mention about our parents, our grandparents especially, the ones that set the table for us and our blessings, was that none of our grandparents graduated from college. None of them went to college. And, that
Some didn't graduate from high school.
That's correct. And they all, in their own way, were successes.
And self-educated. Our grandfather read
self-made man,
3 newspapers a day.
Yeah, wrote letters to
I can't even
everybody.
read my emails.
And but my grandmother, Batt, we called her Mommy, she was one of 9 daughters, and her parents had a restaurant on Arabella by the wharfs, and they served a lot of the seamen.
Yeah.
And they would work in a restaurant. I mean, none of them had the background that some people think. When I got into politics, people thought I was silver spoon, blue blood, blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. My grandparents, worked their rear ends off to do what they did. And
they were hardworking.
And made a success.
Yeah.
Wasn't your grandfather initially, and I guess great-grandfather too, in the ice business initially?
Our great-great-grandfather started the first ice company in New Orleans, which is a pretty smart move in a swamp.
That's right. And in politics, when I first qualified for my first run for city council, the gentleman who is now on the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, Judge Lombard, his grandfather and father were in the ice business and knew our family. Even though they were black, we were white, but there was a certain level of colleagues and relationships, and he told me stuff about my granddad, which was wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
And he helped you out.
Yes, he did. He did. Yeah, I had forgotten, or I wasn't briefed, that I needed to bring cash to qualify.
Only in Louisiana.
And
Sorry.
people took care of it, and I was able to qualify, which was nice.
Wonderful.
No, I'm just saying, you have to bring cash.
Yeah, that's
All right, so Peggy, I got to tell you,
Yeah.
the punishment we used to get from my father and my mom, and Bryan wasn't as mischievous as I was, but I don't
know about that.
I did a little bit, but
Yeah.
I would have to be on the cleanup crew at Pontchartrain Beach. Now, I don't mind telling you, what it smells like and how it feels when it's 90 degrees on asphalt the day after people have been throwing up, spilling beer, cigarette butts all over the place. And I'm in college and I'm hungover too, cleaning up.
Yeah. Well, you deserved it.
Well, maybe so.
You
But,
did.
but
I mean, come on.
They were just trying to instill
Can I
a
tell
little
them what you did?
responsibility and discipline.
Can I tell them what you did?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, one night, he and some friends were like having a great time, and it was getting late.
City was a little dull.
So they said, let's go to the beach. And the beach was closed. Maybe it was 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And he got the door, the
keys from
guard,
Dad.
The keys from Dad. Got the
No, but I went to the house and got the keys off of Dad's highboy.
Got the keys off. Went to the beach with the dates and the girlfriends. And it was like 4 of you, right? 6?
Yeah.
And got the guard to let him in. And
I gave him a $10 bill back in the
rode the Zephyr.
Well, it
Started the
initially
roller
started.
coaster.
It initially started in the Penny Arcade, and we'd get
Right.
kissy in the photo
Yeah,
booth.
yeah.
Then we moved to the right across from there. We moved into the bumper cars. That was easy to operate.
You're lucky.
And then I did the stupid thing where it takes 2 people to operate with the poles in the Zephyr.
yeah.
And I was called on the carpet with my uncle and my dad, and they explained to me the liability that I had. And I worked on the cleaning crew for the rest of the summer.
Oof, my goodness.
I learned my lesson, Pat.
Yes.
Yes.
For the entire summer. I mean, it was the end of. But I think that's. I mean, that was hysterical. I mean, it would never occur to me. But I had a ladder outside.
I thought I had it covered when I gave the guy a 10 spot back in the late
he's
70s.
like, you can't buy that for 10.
You know, well, back then that was a nice tip.
I'm hearing about, I'm getting a message about the 1975 Newman Day at the Beach. Does that sound familiar, Jay?
Oh, we had several of those back. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
One of the parties we had, Dad would always say, would have all the food and drink that we wanted, which was spectacular. And but then we'd always have a DJ. Well, I said, Dad, we want to have live music. How about live music? So I went around and priced bands and stuff like that. And I got Deacon John and the Ivories.
Lovely.
And they were $450. I brought that price in the contract to my father. He said, $450? Are you lost your mind? You've got shrimp and drinks and fall cutters and Mai Tais. We wound up having Deacon John and the Ivories.
Yeah.
God bless him. He
Wonderful,
just turned 80,
we
by the
love
way.
Deacon John.
Deacon John,
yes, he
amazing.
did. We love Deacon John.
Yes.
Well, we're going to back up, though, to theater and little Brian at Nord Theater and then at Tulane.
Pappy Yoakum.
Let's
Pappy
talk
Yoakum.
about, tell us
I
a
didn't
little
send
after.
a picture.
Huh?
You
Little
know, I was always a theatrical kid. Do you think? Yeah.
Brian, always. You
And
were tapping.
Mom,
I was playing
influence,
sports. You were
or-
tapping.
I was tapping.
Okay.
I was also, believe it or not, I was a little shy. I don't.
No.
It was, yes.
What?
I know it really is. I was
Not really, Peggy. Brian was
at
never
home.
shy.
I was. Anyway, I would put on shows in the backyard, puppet shows. But my puppet shows were usually the strippers from Gypsy. You know.
But look at you. Here you are in Cats on Broadway.
yeah.
My gosh, look at that.
That was my second Broadway show. My first was Starlight Express.
Wow.
On roller skates. That's why I
Now,
have 2 knee replacements.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, 2 knee replacements later on. For
Yeah.
folks who weren't familiar with that show, we should say Andrew Lloyd Webber, but everybody's a trained, right?
We were trains. I was Rocky the Boxcar.
Yeah.
And I had to do this number called Wasn't in the Right Place at the Right Time. And literally I had to do handstands and cartwils.
Tell him who
and-
you were coupled with. Jane Khrushchev.
Oh, Jane Krakowski was
Oh,
in
my
the show.
goodness.
Who's
And it was kind
spectacular.
of funny. I bumped into her. We remained friends. We really had this friendship.
She's a great actress.
Oh, she's
Yeah.
wonderful. And
Yeah.
she and I, we saw each other at the SAG Awards when Mad Men was going, and she was in 30 Rock.
And you beat her.
No, they won.
Oh, they won?
They won comedy. We won drama.
Ah, okay.
30 Rock? Yeah.
Yeah, 30 Rock. And also it was, and then Glenn Close was doing Damages at the same time. So I did Sunset with Glenn, and it was kind of funny. But back to Janie, I saw her across the room, and we're like, oh my God, you know, theater people get a little crazy. So it was one of the breaks where they, you know, you get up from the table before they go back to, on camera, and we ran across each other, hugged, like, how are you? I'm so happy for you. Blah 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 blah. Ladies and gentlemen, take your seats. We're about to go back on live on TV. So running back, and as I'm running back, you know, to my seat, somebody stood up and pushed their seat out and knocked me, literally into Meryl Streep's arms. I almost knocked Meryl Streep over, and she's like this. She goes, "Oh, I love Mad Men. I watch it every Sunday with my husband."
Gracious as always.
And then I just said, "I can die now." I can die a happy man.
Bryan, I am very proud to say that my sister Nancy and I, and Nancy is with us tonight, backstage, okay? But we saw you in Saturday Night Fever.
Oh, jeez.
That's my favorite. That and the Pimpernel, Scarlet Pimpernel. Those are my two favorite roles, Bryan.
We saw you in that. We have a photo, though, of Bryan and Jay, and I'm assuming in New York, okay?
Okay,
is
I
that
apologize.
Barney's right in the background?
That's
or?
the original
Gotta be New
Barney's.
York.
And this is like, I think I was doing Cats at the time, and you and Mom came up for Christmas.
Yeah,
right?
because we didn't want you to be by yourself.
I
You have
know,
no
wasn't that
friends.
sweet? It was the first time I had to do a show at
That's
Christmas.
a great photo.
And Jay didn't have a hat, so I had a bunch of berets, so he wore berets.
Look at the parade. I love that.
He was a sport.
Okay. And then, as you referenced, Sunset Boulevard
Uh-huh.
and Glenn Close.
Yes. Well, backstage after the Emmy, and at the Emmys, that's when we were all backstage, and it was Jane Krakowski, and me and Glennie. And Glenn was like,
Glennie,
can
I
you
love
believe,
it.
well, that's what she called. And
Yeah.
she was like, can you believe this? And this is what I love about her. She's like won everything and this huge star, but she's still so excited and excited to see someone that she, was in a Broadway show.
She's an
with.
elegant lady.
She really is. And then Jane Krakowski, it was just such a wonderful little moment. We're like pinching each other. Okay, we're really here,
We have a photo, though, of course, of your mom. I guess you all went up to see Bryan.
Jay.
Jay. To look at
Tell the story about this one.
Look
All right,
at your
so,
mom. She's so glamorous. And there's Andre.
That
Okay.
morning, we
at
were
that.
flying up, and I had about 3 or 4 drinks on the plane. And we were staying, where were we staying, Bryan? We were staying at the,
Oh, God. Not the Plaza, but you were somewhere nice.
we had drinks at the Plaza, but that night I proposed to my wife on the opening of the
Sunset
show, of
Boulevard, yeah.
Sunset.
Oh.
And I wanted to go to the Old King Cole bar, but the weather was horrible.
It was a
if you
little
remember
sleety,
correctly,
yeah, it was
at the
snowy,
St. Regis, which is one of my favorite bars in the world. The St. If you've never been to the Old King
Well, that
Cole bar,
great
yeah,
mural.
the mural and everything. Anyway, but we got engaged that night, and we've been married 20 some odd years, 26. Going on 26. Bryan and Tom have been together 32 years, which is
This
in
is-
itself amazing.
We're the
This
poster
is
children.
great.
Yep.
Yes. And we are going to another sort of series of clips now. Bryan, I want you to set them up, but we're saying Mad Men, Easy Does It, and The Simpsons. Set that up. Tell us
Okay,
about
well,
that.
Wait,
Oh,
before
my
you start, can I do this?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, I want to toast
Oh,
Eddie,
yes.
Eddie and Beth Denis.
Eddie and Beth
It's their
Denis.
37th wedding anniversary.
anniversary.
Okay, happy
And we
anniversary.
want to thank James for all the wine.
James,
it's
the
spectacular.
wine is fantastic.
That's awesome. Thank you, sir.
Woohoo!
Support local. All right.
Support local.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so Bryan, set up these clips that we're about to see. Okay.
Peggy Scott, you picked some crazy clips. One is from the 3rd season of Mad Men, and I'm the first time my characters are directing a TV commercial, and I acted out from my wife, and she kind of realizes like something's up. The second one is from a movie called Easy Does It that Alexa Georges was one of the producers, and she called. She said, "Will you please do this part for me?" And I'm like, "Okay, sure." And I think Alexa, if you're watching, you should produce a lot more because you're really great at it. You're great, but you're great at this. And I play this bumbling, crazy,
Very fun.
thing. And the last one is Mike, The Simpsons. And
What an
I mean,
honor.
it really was. I know, and I'm a big fan of The Simpsons, but not crazy fan. But people are like, I can't believe you did a Simpsons episode. But Michael Price, who went to Tulane, who is several years ahead of me, out of the blue, I just seen him. I did Great Gardens in LA with Betty Buckley and the premiere of that in LA. And he came to see it, and we just hung out and struck up a friend. We hadn't seen each other in forever. And out of the blue, he said, "There's a part I'm writing for this. Would you consider doing a voice for The Simpsons?" I was like, "Yes, are you kidding? Of course."
And you knocked it out of the park.
Well, it won the episode. Thank you. Those episode won the Emmy.
Yes.
Oh, okay, well, let's show
For
it.
animation.
And now here's Bryan, of course, and some career clips. Take a look.
She walks towards you. The wind is blowing in her hair, and she sings about how patio is low in calories. And then she extends her hand out, and she waves goodbye. Then we move back too, but she stops, and she takes her dress in her hands, and she runs forward as fast as she can. But then she turns her back and looks seductively over her shoulder.
You better bet your sweet bippy, baby.
And you might want to get your hair done, daughter. Because after I take these two bozos down, if we paper in the Tri-County area is going to be knocking on that door. Come in. And they can make my picture right here in front of these plaques. Whew. I'm going to meet President Carter, go to dinner with Farrah Fawcett. It's all happening too fast.
After I lost my job, I decided I'd never live anything but my truth again. My wife took it well. I hit the road and drove as far as I could. I landed here, and I've never had a day of regret since.
Brian, I think it's an honor to have been in The Simpsons.
Absolutely.
Oh, I do too. No, don't get me wrong. But you know something? I look at this and like, you know, I sent you all these pictures, and I should have picked better pictures of my brother and myself. But, you know, all I ever wanted to do was be a working actor. And I've been so lucky, you know, and, you know, it's just been, and my brother is, you know, a very successful businessman, and that's what he wanted to do. And he wanted to be a good husband and father, and he's pretty damn great.
You're very kind. Thank you.
No. You're a wonderful father and a wonderful husband. And we're very lucky. I think we had really great parents.
And grandparents on both sides.
And grandparents. But I think, you know, our parents, what I loved about our parents, what they did was they raised two children that are completely different. Yet we're very close.
Yep.
But we are very, very different. But they let us be who we were, who we were going to be.
They gave us the independence and
Right.
our ability to make the decisions on our own.
Exactly, and also guide you, but guide us in the way that this is what you like. This
Right.
is what you want to do. And so supportive. I mean, Mom went door to door when you were running for city councilman. You know, every time it was in a show, she was there opening night.
You know what else we got from them? Tolerance and patience.
Yeah, well, God, we need.
We need more of that in our country right now, for sure. But our parents really instilled that in us, and to respect other people's opinions and hear them out and respect them, even though we might not agree, which is fine. But I wish the world would be a little bit more of that and understand that, hey, not everybody's alike. It's not. We can't all be on the same page. It'd be pretty damn boring if we were. Yeah. But just to and
also respect
and out of respect
for people.
Yeah. And Mom and Dad really instilled that. Our grandfather and grandmothers were like that too.
Yeah. My favorite thing Mom said, she goes, I might have spoiled you rotten, but you better never act like it.
All right. Well, now it's time to go back over to James. And James, let's just hear a little bit about Bisou Wines. And, you know, if you want to learn more about some wines, James, you're the man. Tell us about that. You have a wonderful place where you store the wine, but you also can talk about the wine. And I have personally experienced that, I'm proud to say. Tell us about that.
So yeah, you know, my first career is medicine, but 20 years ago I got into the wine business and I started making wine, and about 12 years ago is when I started importing and distributing wine. So I feel really fortunate. Currently, like you said earlier, I represent over 1,000 wines from around the world. Most of the wines I directly import from France and Italy and the Middle East, from Lebanon, which is where my grandparents came from. And so it's really been a wonderful journey. I meet some wonderful people from all over the world who are passionate about making wine, and they really just want people to enjoy it. And hopefully tonight a lot of people are. In addition, I have my wine venue, which is the Warehouse, where we do hold private events for small parties. As you can see, we had yours there, and it was a fun evening.
Yes, it was so much fun, and you're right along the Lafitte Greenway, aren't you?
I am. I'm on the Lafitte Greenway, right in Mid-City, the heart of Mid-City. Right off of Broad Street, and so we were there right before they dedicated the Greenway. So it's nice to see how the Greenway has come along over the last few years.
But I love that space, and I know you're very involved with the neighborhood, and you put up a mural recently, and I love that you connect to all of that as well, and not too far from Broad, huh?
No, not at all. We're in between Broad and Galvez, and yeah, you know, the mural is new. Is a beautiful artist that came down from Chicago, who helped paint it, and we just try to make the neighborhood and the environment and the neighbors all connect and feel good about where they live.
And your wonderful background is indeed at the Cellar on St. Louis. So just to give, we've toured there, and of course you have a lot of your wines, and it is amazing what you've got. And you said that where it used to be an old automotive parts warehouse, or?
It was.
Tell us about the space.
Rick Flick built the warehouse in the 80s, and he eventually wanted to just shut down the business, so it worked out perfect for me. So I bought it back about 7 years ago. And it's really been an opportunity to grow the business. And so that's why we have now 1,000 wines that I represent from all over. So
it's incredible. It's really nice because you give us a tour, and of course you talk about each of the wine, and you also have access to cheese, don't you, at St. James?
I do. So St. James leases space from me. And so the whole point of the warehouse was to create an environment that's about food and wine and good time. So I have fantastic artisanal cheeses to go along with all the small producer wines that I represent, and so we just try to keep it healthy and fun and real.
Well, and thank you again. This was your idea of great performances, and thank you again, James, very, very much.
You're
Absolutely. Back to the Bat Boys. Okay, and what we want to talk about is sort of the present, and, you know, back to you talking about your dear mom, and gee, there were so many great stories. You even wrote a book.
Yes.
Called She Ain't Happy, She's My Mother. And let me just say, you know, in terms of course, you know, knowing you, but I think I knew your mom before I knew you, Bryan and Jay, because she was definitely a civic activist and loved Le Petit Theater.
No, you're absolutely, that makes sense. We were just talking about that. Our dad died in 85, which was mighty early. So, and Bryan moved up to New York and did his thing. So I escorted my mom to a lot of events, and we were just talking about another great lady, Gail Benson. Bryan and I offset, and how wonderful she has been to the community and everything like that. And I took Mom to Gail and Tom Benson's wedding at Noma a few years back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Mm-hmm.
They she designed a room for Mom. They were friends. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was a designer by trade.
Yeah, she's lovely. She every time after our mother passed, every time I was in the paper or something, you know, whatever publicity, Gail Benson would have it laminated and sent to me.
I got that from Jimmy Fitzmaurice.
Right.
God bless him.
And like he did it for me too. Yeah. But I'm like, how dear, how
very sweet,
how thoughtful. Mm-hmm. How kind.
But also, may I just say about this book, though, it's not just all like, you know, things were fabulous and it was so wonderful. I mean, you talk about some ups and downs.
No,
it's real.
Well, it's
a really good read.
Well, thank you. But life is ups and downs.
Yeah.
And we all are thrown curveballs.
Yes.
And people make mistakes. It's how you handle them.
Right.
And how you
pick yourself up.
Pick yourself up. And like, you know, my parents, you listen, every marriage has issues and everything. And my parents at one point, well, it was not, you know, roses and lollipops or whatever, but what I loved about them is they worked it out. And like, it was hard at times. And I learned that, and that I've taken that with me for the rest of my life, that if something is valuable, if you love it, and if you cherish it, you work your took us off to work it out.
What's that word?
And if it's a Yiddish word that means butt.
And how do you spell it?
Listen, I went to Newman. I know.
Okay. Well, Bryan, I think both you and Jay also epitomize style, and I'm going to assume that you get that, you know, from your mom and dad. But Bryan, I mean, there's so many different talents that you have, but included with actor.
I feel like I got to write a book now.
Yeah, who do this?
I'm feeling a little
Jay should write a book
right now. I'm feeling insecure.
But Big Easy Style,
Thank you.
comma.
I love that book,
Easy
though.
Style, and
well,
some
my brother's
really
house is in there.
tips.
There's some pictures of Jay's house in there because Andre. My favorite thing, I helped Andre do some things in the house, and my favorite thing with Andre was you'd show her a fabric or something for the house, and she'd like you'd show through. She goes, "That's it, that's it." She could make up her mind like, she still can, like that. My mother, we loved our mother.
No,
but she would. I don't know. But
I know where you're going.
I'll ask. Let's ask. What do you think? What do you think? And she'd always end up doing what she
got
wanted.
6 opinions from a doctor to decide what she needed to do, and then she'd go with what the maid told her.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
The domestic partner.
Got it.
She would. But
that's my favorite book of them all, right there, Peggy.
It's so great.
And also they were true stories. I mean, it's all, you know, family stories. We all have stories. It's just how you tell them.
Easter?
Absolutely. And let's talk. Wait, I'm sorry. So wait, you've teased us here. Easter? What's
No, you can't tell that story.
I can't tell. I was told I can't tell that story.
He can't tell that.
I'll tell you off
we don't like
when this is over.
cliffhangers. Okay. But anyway, let's talk about Hazelnut, Bryan. You and Tom.
Yeah.
And for quite a few years now, huh? Yeah.
It's going to be our 18th.
Is it 18?
18
Congratulations.
It was right before Katrina. I remember that.
On Magazine Street.
It was
Hazelnut.
2003 we opened.
Inspired by your grandmother, Hazelnut.
Hazelnut. Well, I like to tell
Hazelnut.
people we named it after my grandmother. Her name was Hazel. She was a nut. But she was not a nut. She was an
Isn't
amazing
nuts
woman.
from
Well,
German?
nuts means nut means
In
nut
German.
in German.
Right.
So my great grandparents had a sense of humor. But my brother, is this, haberdasher,
Let's talk about,
years and
absolutely.
years
Thank
and
you.
years
That
and
was
years and
next,
years.
of course. Jay,
Yes.
Joseph Banks, Lily Pulitzer, but also from a civic aspect, a board of trustees of City Park and board of commissioners. Congratulations.
Chairman,
I'm president now,
He's
yes.
president of
President.
City Park.
City Park is one of the best assets our entire state has, and I'm honored to have been elected president. And my family has a bit of history there.
Yes.
My grandfather built the Storyland in honor of my great-grandfather, John Batt, which is my name, back in the 50s. And
The train?
put the trains
The
in.
Put the trains
the
in.
rides and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, it's and I served with your husband, Peggy, Errol,
Yeah.
and
Look at the whale. I remember the whale so well.
now
Yeah.
Jay
the
adopted the
whale
whale.
in my family adopted the whale and a few other things in Storyland when we refurbished everything. And
So
it's
beautiful.
a labor of love. City Park is just one of the greatest assets
It's
our
gorgeous.
state and our city has.
Yeah.
And I'm flattered.
Well, it means so much. And and that contribution is very key. Bryan has long played the role of an ambassador for our great city. And while we're still in recovery mode, of course, with the pandemic, here's a spot on some helpful
God.
hints.
Oh, I love this. I love it.
Here at the New Orleans Airport, we're working to keep our guests, crews, and employees healthy and safe by implementing
Physical distancing measures!
Big Sam even showed up to help by ensuring that people in line are standing far enough apart from each other. Oh. Sorry about that.
My hair.
So much fun.
My hair was a little darker at the time. I'd just come back. This was one of the first things we filmed right after, the lockdown or semi-lockdown. And it was growing out. I was doing, I was in New York in rehearsal for a play. It was the King's Speech, the stage version of the King's Speech.
Oh, this would have been, had this been brought forward, if it had not been postponed because of the pandemic, Bryan had the choicest role on Broadway to be this. He was the speech
Lionel
therapist.
Logue, the speech
yes,
therapist.
exactly.
It was one, who knows, it might happen again. But actually, the director of that, Michael Wilson, is directing Dear Mr. Williams at Le Petit, which opened, that I wrote and will be in, hopefully.
Yes.
In October, we open.
Yes, well, I know you've been working hard on that for quite a few years, putting it together. So Le Petit in October, right?
Yes, October, hopefully.
We're counting on it.
I mean,
Okay.
I must say, I've never been more, I don't want to say nervous, but I think it's good.
It's more anxious
But I'm excited, but
in a positive way.
I want it to be great. We're opening Le Petit Theater in its 100th whatever season.
105th.
105th, with a play that I wrote about, growing up in New Orleans, also told through the words of Tennessee Williams. So it's kind of the pressure's on. But you know what? I will say this, New Orleans audiences are so accepting and so kind. I will say that. I'm looking forward to it. The people that saw the workshop of it really liked it, so that's why we're doing it.
And of course, you also did a mini version at the Tennessee Williams
Yes,
Festival,
that's where
which
it
is coming up
started.
again in March.
That's where it started.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had a question from one of our viewers tonight about Mardi Gras, and I know there's so many questions, but we can only hope for the best. But Jay, I mean, you had daughters who were very involved with Mardi Gras, and Bryan, didn't you help design their gowns? I mean, there is some kind of family.
Peggy, I wish you would not only have designed it, but he would have paid for them. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case.
Darn.
No.
I bought a few beads.
I got to tell you, my daughter Kelly finished up her year right before COVID, and she had a great time.
Well, tell us which she was royalty and which crew.
She was in the Queen of Achaeans.
Okay.
My daughter
great.
Bailey was Queen of Athenians.
All right, great.
And
All right.
but Bryan helped design with the girls their dresses and what have you by some incredible Patty Constantine. Not Patty Constantine. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of
No, you're thinking of Kathleen Van Horn, and
Yeah.
then also
Constantine's the caterer. I'm sorry.
but
Pardon me.
oh God,
Come on, Brian. Pull it
Come
out.
on,
This is age, Peggy.
Kathleen, no. What's her name? She does all the gowns. Oh, it's gonna come to me.
Oh, Perron?
Perron, yes, Suzanne Perron.
Ava Perron.
Suzanne
Yeah,
Perron.
Perron.
She's fantastic. We had more fun in the studios with Suzanne Perron and Kathleen Van Horn doing these dresses.
Yes,
and listen,
Kathleen, yes.
I don't know if you know this, but I haven't told many people, but I have been in a fashion aficionado from way back. I mean, I was telling Mom, like, Calvin Klein, Anne Klein, this one, Oscar de la Renta, you know, and she didn't know, really. And when I was in New York, I'd just taken, like, had 3 classes at Parsons School of Design, and it was going great until I got my first Broadway show. So if I had not gotten my
Tell them
Broadway
who's
show.
at Parsons now.
Oh, and
Kelly Batt.
My niece Kelly, Jay's daughter, my niece Kelly's at Parsons. She's studying. She's a great artist and great graphic designer.
Well, Danny Snelling says you all look marvelous.
Danny, we love Danny.
So there you go.
Danny's graduated with me from Newman back in '78.
Okay, well,
He and
hey,
Pulse.
Danny. Okay.
Yes, Danny.
Y'all, this has been so great, and I hate to say, I guess we're done, but unless, hey, Danny, hey,
There
there's
he
the
is.
Always for Pleasure poster in the background. Thank you, Danny, so much. We need to, though, zoom around a little bit, too. We haven't done that before we conclude. All right, let's see who else is still out there and hopefully have been enjoying our wonderful, talk about memory lane. Hi, how are you doing? Mr. Perriott, I think. Yeah, hey, how you doing? Hey, good to see you. Hi. Hey, how you doing, sir? Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you. We've had such a crew. Jim Tapley with us once again. A rolling Elvi, by the way. Hello, Mr. Tapley. Hey, how y'all doing? Good to see you too. Thanks for enjoying our evening. It's been so much fun. We've had so many great memories. Hi. Hey, Andre. All right. Hello, ladies. Hi. Thank you, Andre, for such good memories tonight too. Oh, there's Dana. Oh my gosh, in company, we should say, look at that photo of Jay. Jay, party here, huh? Oh, look at that. Hey, how y'all doing? Hi, good to see you once again. Love the painting behind you, too. What a nice crew we have tonight, too. Hi, how y'all doing? Hello. Thanks for being with us. Hope you've enjoyed the wines, and I'm sure we certainly have, too, tonight as well. But it's great to see you. Hi. Hey, Daniel. Hi. Good to see you, too. Glad you're here. There's Nell. We love Nell. Thank you, Nell. Going to be busy with the social season with Mardi Gras soon as well. Thank you so much for being there. Alan Smason. Lots of good stories. I'll see you soon. I'll see you Thursday night. Thursday earlier than that. But yes, hey, good to see you. Biggie, Errol aboard. See you soon, hopefully. Hey, look at all of this Mardi Gras stuff in the background. Hey, Joan. Hey, John Zimmerman. Hello. How y'all? Very good. We've had such a great crew tonight, too. And I know we've got Dominic and everybody out there. All right. Well, now it is time, though, for a toast to our stars tonight, Jay and Bryan Batt. And thanks to all of you.
James.
Yay. Thank you
James.
all.
Thank you, James.
Peggy.
It was
so much
delicious.
fun.
Thanks for having us.
It's been great. And thanks to our, of course, generous supporters, you help make it possible for us to produce and present programs that educate and entertain for over 64 years now. Don't forget, stepping out on Thursday night at 7, we cover the arts, including local music and theater. Coming in October, a special on Irma Thomas, 90 minutes. Thanks to Sandra and Russ Herman for sponsoring great performances. And thanks again to James Moises and Vino Wine and Spirits. Also appreciate, hey James, thank you again. Hello. Yay, all his idea. Thank you, James. And also thanks, of course, to George Matulik, Jim Moriarty, Dana Hansel, Aislinn Hinyip, Nancy Scott Deacon, and Joanne Deacon for volunteering tonight, and our great crew. By the way, our annual gala will be September 30th at WYES with the World of Hemingway as the theme. Go to wyes.org/events for details on that. And one more toast, this time to our new president and CEO, Robin Cooper. Congratulations to
She used to dance
Robin.
with her grandfather.
All the best to Alan Pizzato, who is retiring after 8.5 years, but congratulations, Robin. And thank you all so much. Thanks so much. Good night.